Welcome, everyone. My name is Jack Bensimon, Managing Director of ArcStone Securities and Investments. Welcome to our podcast, Deal Pulse. With us today are three companies, three gentlemen. Today we have Bill Panagiotakopoulos, we have Geoff Benic, as well as Setti Coscarella. We're going to start with Bill Panagiotakopoulos. Bill, welcome to the podcast. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, my name is Bill Panagiotakopoulos. I'm the CEO of Safe Supply. We started trading approximately a month ago on the Canadian Securities Exchange under SPLY. As a background, I had pretty conservative beginnings, university, science, going down a pretty structured path. And then about 2012, 2013, I saw the opportunity in cannabis, and it kind of changed everything. I started looking more and more at a drug being actually a real business. And, much to the dismay of my parents and colleagues and a lot of people that I went in to pitch the idea, cannabis actually came to pass and it became legalized commodity.
So we've been following you and your company over the last little while. Your recent debut on the Canadian Securities Exchange, congratulations. Can you tell us a bit about the market? I mean, cannabis and psychedelics have really evolved in the last 3 or 4 years. Can you tell us a bit about the market?
Well, look, the market's robust. It's strong. You look at cannabis and the numbers today are almost $5.5 billion of legal sales in Canada. Globally, that number is eclipsed by the black market. Psychedelics, same idea. There's a huge business underground. The reality is globally, descheduling is coming. There's new legislation coming. We know that Schedule 1, Schedule 2 narcotics like cocaine, ecstasy, MDMA, they're coming. They're going to be legalized, in my opinion, and a lot of the policymakers' opinion. And that market is well north of $300 billion. So what better position to be in than going in first, looking at this amazing ecosystem and supporting all this legislative change around the world to bring this to the regulated market.
So here we are sitting in Toronto and we're witnessing a number of trends. Can you talk about the decriminalization, which they're serving as some major catalysts in terms of making this market be what it is?
Yeah, look, the war on drugs effectively didn't work. Nobody's sitting here in any country saying, hey, we've got a control over our drug system. You don't. Any 15-year-old, almost anywhere in any major city in the world can go and get pretty much any drug they want. So the governments are looking and seeing that, okay, this war on drugs costing us billions of dollars. The treatment of the war on drugs for people that are getting affected are billions of dollars. The incarceration of the most vulnerable people in this whole ecosystem, that's costing us billions of dollars. We're not winning on any angle here. So a lot of, brave politicians and smart, people in the government are saying, hold on a sec. There's probably a better way here. We did it in cannabis. We did it in psychedelics. And like in cannabis where, a lot of people I talk to, they're like, well, when you legalize cannabis, everybody's going to be high. That didn't happen. That's ludicrous. When you stop prohibition on alcohol, everybody wasn't drunk. So the reality is that there's a real market here that needs to be regulated and addressed. So we're there to look at that ecosystem, the companies that are on the cutting edge, that are pushing that envelope in support of this legislative change.
What do you see in terms of the, not just the cannabis, but the changing perception that this is not just an element for criminal activity or for criminals?
Well, listen, 2012, 13, the first G7 nation, Canada, decided that we need to change regulations on weed, cannabis. A lot of people pushed back. A lot of people thought that was, a hardcore drug. We can't do anything with it. And ever since, there's been a lot of change in perception and a lot of change in what people want to do with the reality, with this underworld marketplace that is just hurting the population.
Also, can you also speak to the shift towards the political motivations in what's taking place right now?
Look, you could call it social justice. You would call it, financial need. But the reality is the war on drugs just doesn't work. It just doesn't. So they can't keep spending a ton of money going after something that isn't working. We need to change the policies. There should be some barricades so that people don't fall off, right? So people don't have to deal in the underworld to get their recreational drug or the drug that they're taking because they just want to self-medicate or whatever the situation is. There's just a better path for it.
Let's talk about specifically where Safe Supply comes into this market and the value added for consumers.
Yeah, so Safe Supply is a collection of former CEOs and bankers of the cannabis and psychedelic world. Why that's relevant or necessary is because there's going to be a lot of companies that are going to come into this brand new ecosystem because there's a ton of money to be made here. And just like cannabis, just like psychedelics, there's going to be a lot of really good companies. There's going to be a lot of companies that aren't really good and aren't really managed well. We want people that have experience in this world. We all have experience in this world. We go out there, we look at the companies that are coming up, we diligence them. We're able to not only invest in them if we feel that they're prudent, that investment is a good idea, but we can support them with legal, regulatory, money, and all the rest of it to make sure that they work.
So in terms of identifying the winners and losers of the market, what is the methodology? What's the process? What are things you look for?
Well, we look at companies that are working within federal laws. So we're not going to invest in a company that's in the gray market or thinking of getting involved in business that isn't 100% sanctioned by the country that they're going to operate in. So we make sure that they're within the law, and then we look at the management team, we look at the structure, we look at the idea itself. So we look at ideas from left to right. Whether you're a farming a company that wants to start, producing a product for extract for a legal market, or you're an AI company that's looking at mental health. Like we look at absolutely everything, and we really want to make sure that the companies that we're investing in can survive over the next couple of years and become a real business.
So the last we checked in terms of our research, it was something like a $30 or $40 billion market that was going to be for 2025 or 2030. Why now? What is it about the conditions now that are right for investing in this sector?
So globally, the shift has changed, right? In Europe, there's a number of countries that are descheduling, and even Switzerland that's trying to get cocaine to be sold recreationally. There's Australia that's already legalized for medical use, the psychedelics. Canada and BC has descheduled, and Ontario and Montreal are looking to follow suit very soon. The US, Oregon has descheduled, Colorado has descheduled, Washington's about to do it, California is about to do it. So right now is the paradigm shift, right? I mean, you could have had a cannabis company in the 2000s. It wouldn't have done you any good. There was no market for it. There's no way of, really getting into that business. Same with psychedelics. When they came about, there was a lot of research that had happened and was happening that pushed that whole environment. Now with a third wave of descheduling and the third opportunity in the drug world is right now because politically speaking, it's being pushed.
So now that we have this third wave of the drug reform, what do you see as perhaps the top three obstacles that some of these companies are going to be faced with, and what will be the risk mitigation to overcoming those obstacles?
For the most part, it's perception. I mean, a lot of people, just because it's, entering into doing something in the drug world, it's just the people's perception of it. But for the most part, a little bit of education goes a long way. There's a fentanyl test strip company called Safety Strips. 120 days ago, you went to jail if you had a fentanyl test strip in your pocket in the US. You went to jail. It was drug paraphernalia. Now it's not. And now you can go out there and make a business of that because, listen, the reality is that there's a tainted drugs supply out there, and people want to have the power back in their hands to say, listen, if I'm going to take something, is this going to kill me? Or am I going to, use it the way I want to use it? So perception is the biggest one out there. With regards to anything else, most people we talk to, politicians and otherwise, everybody's excited about the opportunity in this new ecosystem and are really backing it. And especially seeing what has happened now with cannabis and what happened there with psychedelics, also being at the absolute beginning of this takes a little bit of education for the people that we're talking to. But once they see what's going on globally, with it, they're excited to come in.
So given that we're at the early stage of the cycle for these emerging growth technology companies like Safe Supply, where would you say in terms of the role of strategic partnerships comes into play here?
Well, that's our business. I mean, it's critical. We want to go out there and support businesses that are getting into the ecosystem. And look, there's a ton out there. Not all are good, and some are absolutely amazing. So we've had an amazing run over the last year going out there and identifying the different companies that are doing business and picking and choosing. And given that we're the first company to go public out there and give the investors the first opportunity to be able to invest in this ecosystem through us is exciting.
So what gives you an advantage? You've got a public listing in the Canadian Securities Exchange. What gives you an advantage as a first mover, as one of the first public companies on an exchange like that in this sector?
Well, because we know there's a number of deals out there to be done. And every time we do a deal, it'll excite the investment world to come in and invest in us. So people that invest early on get that benefit. There'll be early on, like early days of Canopy. Look, I mean, it started as a micro cap stock as well. And then with a lot of really good public news releases that came out after, good partnerships, it exploded, it evolved. Right now, we're giving the investor the opportunity to say, hey, look, here, if the thesis is right and we think that the third wave of descheduling is here now, it's going to be a really interesting ride over the next couple of years. Here's our opportunity to be able to invest in a company that's out there, first out there, and looking at all the potential winners.
So one of the things we look for at ArcStone Securities and Investments Corp is the quality of the team, the quality of management. Can you speak to what's available at Safe Supply and what differentiates it?
So we're a tightly held C-suite, right? We have people that everybody on our team has had a CEO role in cannabis or psychedelics, and that's important because you really need that expertise to go out there and identify winners that are going to be dealing in the drug space, right? And everything in the ancillary businesses around it. All of these guys have capital markets experience. They all have deal experience, and we're backed by, well, you guys, some of the best bankers in the business that have a lot of pedigree behind you guys as well.
So what can investors expect to see in the next 12 to 18 months?
We're going to be aggressively moving towards M&A opportunities and also investing in some pretty exciting companies. We're just waiting to finalize some details on LOIs, and then we'll be announcing them shortly.
In terms of M&A, is there a certain criteria you're looking at, or what would be an ideal M&A opportunity in that area?
Winners, people that have an amazing business now. They're just suffering from a really bad market. And bad perception. There's a lot of really good companies out there that are just suffering, and they're looking for a refresh, a tighter management, and a better focus.
Okay, well, Bill, thanks for coming out to Deal Pulse. We appreciate it, and we're looking forward to a lot of good things with Safe Supply.
Thank you, Jack.
With us today is also Setti Coscarella. Setti is a vice president of Safe Supply. Setti, welcome to Deal Pulse. Can you tell us a bit about your background?
Sure thing. I've done a multitude of different things. I've worked on the sell side. I've worked on the buy side. I've worked in family offices. I've been an entrepreneur. I've led public companies before. So, I have a broad swath of experience that I think is applicable to a wide variety of different industries. Now, this one being a very nascent one, I think requires sort of a wealth of experience just to understand where the opportunities lie, where you're going to go, and try to deploy capital, time, resources, whatnot. And I think that, the team that we've assembled is really a world-class team in that regard, because they have all of that experience through a wide variety of different backgrounds.
We have Geoff Benic, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Safety Strips. Geoff, welcome to the show. Geoff, tell us a bit about yourself, your background.
So serial entrepreneur, kind of same pedigree as Setti, what he just kind of outlined for himself. But primarily serial entrepreneur, public company CEO, ran a cannabis company for 4 years, publicly traded on TSX Venture Company of the Year 2018, graduated to the TSX and did really well. And prior to that, believe it or not, a pro hockey player.
So there's clearly a number of synergies here between Safe Supply and Safety Strips. What's the interplay between what you guys do and as well as Bill's company, Safe Supply?
So when you look at them, they're kind of all aligned in the same market. So with Safety Strips, we're working for harm reduction at retail scale. to get our strips out to stores, get the awareness up, and really help save lives, because we truly believe we will save lives. And, in Bill's segment, trying to work hard at cleaning up the supply, right? So that, utopia would be where people wouldn't have to use safety strips, right? And they could survive through a government regulated supply, right? But until that happens, we're here to save lives.
So what does that market space look like? You've given a sense in terms of the size of the market and the timing of why it's ideal right now.
So why it's ideal right now is because, believe it or not, our safety strips were considered drug paraphernalia up until 3 months ago. So what does that mean? That means that if you were caught with these safety strips, you could go to jail, right? When the whole intention of them is to save lives, right? So the addressable market, the immediate addressable market is, we believe, about a $3 billion marketplace globally. In the U.S., probably about $1.5 billion today. And it's really where we've got to get to the market. We got to get to retail scale and through distribution. So that's where we're at with that.
So what's unique about these strips, about this product?
So what's unique about them is, number one, it's a made in Canada story, right? So these strips are made in Canada. They're not made offshore. And we'll be the first out there at retail scale. We just came off a non-deal roadshow in New York, where we met with one of the largest drug chains in the U.S., as well as one of the largest distributors. Our campaign and our strips will save lives, and that's what we're here to do.
So in the U.S. alone, as I understand it, there are 600 deaths a day from fentanyl. What's the efficacy of these strips?
So, you bring up a good point. 600 deaths a day. That's the equivalent of 2 planes falling out of the sky every day, right? So if 2 planes were falling out of the sky every day, the FAA would be doing something about it, right? So I'm not sure if you're aware, but at the last APEC meeting in California, President Biden pledged President Xi from China to really stop the sales of fentanyl to the cartels or to Mexico, right? So, it's a serious addressable market now. The efficacy of our strips is we're in a 96.8% accuracy rate on being able to address fentanyl in safe supply.
And who are your target customers here? What's the distribution channel and strategy?
Our target customer is really everybody. If I were a mother or father sending my kid off to college, I would make sure that they had these strips in their back to school supply. And what I mean by that is that, it just takes the one moment, that one time for your child to want to dabble, or maybe a little bit of peer pressure, and just feel that they want to let loose a little bit and whatnot, to have a deathly experience. So we're really addressing it with parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, cousins. It's really anybody, right? Because you really don't know what you get, and you really know what you're going to have. But the one thing for sure is the chances of you dying through a bad experience is very, very high.
So this is clearly a preventative tool, almost like the condom market. Is that how you're positioning this product, and how does that work in the marketplace?
I don't want to call these the new condoms of the millennium, but what I do want to say is that we need to take the same proactive approach at communicating, getting the awareness up, and getting people using these safe strips, right? And again, the way we're going to do it is a huge awareness campaign through social media. Our website strategy, and then ultimately just getting out there and with some, obviously some free media, because I really think that this is a great, compelling story that I think everyone wants to be a part of. And through our distribution network of, like I mentioned earlier, about 170,000 gas and convenience locations, and the multitude of chain pharmacies, we're going to be out everywhere. And there should be really no excuse for anyone to die, right? There should be no excuse. So, we have a saying, if you don't want to die, test your supply. And that's what we're here to do.
So what are going to be the key success factors in rolling this out, and how is your team going to execute on that? What makes your team unique?
So the first part of it is obviously the distribution points, right? So we've got to be able to get these to, to walking distance to anybody, right? So if anyone's doing is going to have a party or is going to indulge or we want them to be able to have access to them. It's got to be in walking distance, right? So that means we've got to get huge distribution, which we are. So that's number one. Then obviously once we have the distribution and the product on the shelves, in the stores, on the counters, is then we're going to get the awareness up. And how we're going to get the awareness up is it's going to be, just a total grind of communicating to all the, MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, as an example, all these associations, soccer moms, grandparents associations, and it's really going to be, kind of guerrilla marketing to get out there and get that, get the story out there. But I truly believe that's such a compelling story. Saving lives is such a compelling story that I really think that I think it'll be a very successful launch, and ultimately with our team. So our team is comprised of some very, very serious folks that are in distribution, sales, and marketing, both on the supply chain side, on the manufacturing side as well, and then ultimately on the marketing side, right? So, we're going to be using Amazon as one of our distribution points for and fulfilled by Amazon as well. And, we really think that for the folks that want discretion, that don't want to walk into a store to pick up these items, they'll be able to get them on Amazon. But I truly believe that, walking into any one of our channels will be easy access for you to get these, and no one should be ashamed to want to be able to save their lives, right?
I think if you take a look at the political narrative leading into the upcoming election in the U.S., we were down in New York last week. Now, whether you turn on CNN or Fox News, they're all talking about this fentanyl problem, okay? So it's becoming the new COVID. It's killing more and more Americans than COVID ever did, and Canadians, and worldwide citizens. So this is a new pandemic that we need to fight. Now, there are geopolitical strategies that you can go off and try to exercise to coerce China to not produce fentanyl and send it to the cartels. That's one way. Two, you can actually do something where people can take control into their own hands. That's where I think safety strips really provides that immediate solution to a very pressing problem. Because all you need to do now is, once we have these distributed, is walk into a store and buy it. I'm not telling you to use drugs. We're not doing any of that. If you're going to do it anyway, then would you spend a couple of bucks to make sure you don't die? And that's really the value proposition here, right? And I think Geoff alluded to it as well, and then so did you in the 80s. Condoms weren't really a thing. And they kind of used it here and there. But when that happened to Magic Johnson, and all of a sudden this became a new pandemic.
Yeah. And listen, guys, I mean, for Safe Supply, this is a no-brainer. This is a well-organized company, a lot of good tech behind it, and an immediate need right now. I mean, the addressable market, you could call it $100, $200 million a year, easy. I mean, easily. There's a lot of opportunity in this company. So from a dollars and cents perspective, we saw safety strips as a home run. Bring them in. Let's help them. Let's incubate them. Let's get them out there as fast as possible. There's a tremendous land grab coming for these fentanyl testing strips. And I think they're going to have a really good advantage over everybody.
So Geoff, as first movers in the market, how are you going to leverage that in the market, and where are the pockets of investment opportunities?
So, the great thing about this is that we are creating a new category, right? So not only are we first movers, but we're first movers in a new category. So what does that mean? It means it's not a crowded space. We're going to be out there first, and people are going to trust our products. They're going to use our products. The awareness is going to be out there, and we're going to own that category, right? So, we're excited about that. In terms of the investment side of it, there's tremendous amount of opportunities when you have a business that's firing on all cylinders, where sales are really starting to come in. Your brand's getting a tremendous amount of awareness. We're really not concerned about the investment coming in for a business. We're already having some discussions early about some potential opportunities to bring money into the business. But look, we're a cash flowing business, right? Meaning this is that we put stuff on the shelves, it gets manufactured, it gets puts on the shelf, it pulls through, it sells, and we get the money, right? So
I know you've got a background in retail distribution. How are we going to leverage that with safety strips?
Well, look, I mean, signing one of the biggest brand distributors in the U.S., it was a smart move, right? It was a smart move. Instant 170,000 doors, convenience and gas, and that's where you're going to find these. So I think by us knowing what we don't know and getting the help that we, and the best help that we can in terms of distribution, that's the step in the right direction. And the fact that some of the largest pharmaceutical chains we're talking to them now, are interested and open to this in terms of health and wellness and harm reduction and safety, bodes well about what we're doing.
Yeah, guys, we've helped out quite a bit with this too, to bring in support on the distribution side, and it's a home run. It's everybody wants it. Everybody needs this across North America, across the world, but we're starting in the U.S. first and Canada, and we're excited about this.
Yeah, when you think about it at scale, they have the back office management, they have all the legal support, they have financial support, they have everything that you want in incubating a for lack of better words, somewhat of a startup, right? Very mature of a startup in terms of we have all the ingredients, everything ready to go. But at the end of the day, Safe Supply and Bill and his team are giving us all the support that we need. And ultimately what it does for us is it helps us to cross-collateralize cost and savings, right? And so that's how we view that.
So this cross-collaboration, we'll go back to Setti. How do you see what you guys do at Safe Supply in terms of the interplay in the market space with safety strips? Where is that intersection?
Well, look, I think when you take a look at Safe Supply, it has a pretty broad scope in terms of where it can participate. Okay, like if you take a look at what Safe Supply as a category is everything from prevention to addiction treatment to safe swap programs to housing to employment opportunities. Like there's really no shortage of places you can go and participate. Now, when you start taking a look at that, you say, okay, but where are you going to generate the highest amount of value in the shortest amount of time? When I see something like safety strips, that hits that point immediately, because you can take people who have problems with substance abuse and move them through treatment, recovery, and all of these things. But if you can't keep them alive long enough to do that, then all of this is moot. Okay? Safety strips allows people to test things that they're going to ingest and ensure that they're not going to kill you. Once you get past that point, I think you alleviate an extraordinary amount of strain on a critical infrastructure, whether it be first responders, hospitals, doctors, everything. I think you sort of alleviate a lot of that strain. You give people confidence and comfort knowing that if you're going to make a decision, it's not going to be a life-altering one. And then from there, I think you can start creating a whole host of other things throughout this sort of tapestry that I believe Safe Supply will become.
How much of the success of Safe Supply and safety strips is dependent on government legislation?
None. Safe Supply we don't invest, talk about, or deal with any company that doesn't work within the current regulatory environment. Like we're not buying tons of cocaine and keeping it offshore waiting for legislation we're not doing any of that. We're looking at companies that can operate within the current framework. So safety strips, they're in business right now. Amazing. We back them. Some of the other companies that we're looking at, like Harbour. Harbour's bringing in coca leaf extract into Canada and the U.S. to manufacture a whole line of CPG products. Well, they're not bringing the alkaloid part because that's illegal. They're bringing the unregulated, the Nutra part into it, and they're going to do a tremendous business. So we're excited about that one too. If and when legislation changes for a safe swap program, and they do need to we do need to bring in hard drugs, well, we've actually invested in licenses to do that. So we're perfectly capable of doing it, provided that legislation changes. But until it does, we're not dabbling in that. We want to focus on these amazing companies that are prepared to launch business now, not 2 years, not 10 years from now, right now.
So you're stripping out the regulatory risk, not dependent on government legislation. With safety strips, is there any rule with government policy or legislation? And if any, how does that work?
No, as we mentioned earlier, these strips once were considered drug paraphernalia, but everyone in the powers that be finally realized that we got to save lives, right? So about 90 days ago, these strips were deregulated, and we're going to be first out to market at scale, retail scale, with brand awareness and distribution. So from our perspective in North America, we can get these strips out there immediately.
We believe that there's an extraordinary opportunity given the current regulatory framework. We think that if anything changes, it'll only be better from a business standpoint. So, even if you take a look at the strips, yes, they've been sort of deregistered, decriminalized, and all these things. Same thing happened with naloxone, right? Now, there's an anti-opioid, so if you're experiencing an overdose, it's kind of like an EpiPen where you jab it in and it'll keep you alive. That was once considered drug paraphernalia as well, even though it was intended to save lives. And I think as people start to reframe the problem, and a lot of that effort is coming on the back of all of these people unfortunately dying. Now that people start looking at this more critically and more imaginatively, they start to say, okay, you know what? Criminalizing naloxone is ridiculous. Criminalizing safety strips is ridiculous. So these things start to fall away. And I think that then creates enormous gaps in the market that guys like Geoff can go in and really start capitalizing on.
We want to prevent you from having to use those kits to save lives. Because I can only imagine if you're not trained on how to use a kit, you're going to panic and you're probably not going to be able to help somebody who is dying, right? So our goal, again, is let's just prevent that from happening. Let's prevent that from occurrence. And that's what we're all about.
Geoff's company is an incredible one. It really puts the power back into the people's hand to say, listen, if I decide to do something, take a strip, test it. Now I can make sure that, I'm not going to get horribly addicted to fentanyl or xylazine or one of these other toxins out there, or I'm not going to die. Great. I got what I intended to buy, and now I can go about my business.
Well, gentlemen, thanks for coming on to Deal Pulse and speaking about your companies. I'd like to thank Bill, Geoff, and Setti. Until our next episode at ArcStone Securities and Investments, have a good day.